We're going to get started tonight. Welcome to Mycology 101 with Central Texas Mycological Society. And my name is Angel, as some of you all may know that have met me in the past. I'm going to start off just more talking a little bit about Central Texas Mycological Society. So we formed not long ago, right before the pandemic, and we recently finalized all of our paperwork and have our nonprofit status, which is very exciting. And so our mission is to strengthen the conservation, research, and study of fungi in Central Texas. And I say the word funga because that is somewhat of a new nomenclature that's starting to be used within the fungi community, and also we're trying to get this word used much larger. So you may have heard of flora, fauna, and we want to give funga the same impact, give that word the same impact, and put it up there just at the same level as those categorizations in science. So it might sound confusing, or I'm saying a word wrong, but funga is where we're gonna slowly start using that word more often so people get familiar with it. And so we host both online, and now that things are kind of winding down, as it may seem with the pandemic, we're doing more in-person educational events. We also do happy hours. We had one last night, and we all had fun playing mushroom bingo and learning our wild edible fungi. We do walks to learn mushroom identification and learn about the ecology of fungi. And we just kicked off a program which you can rewatch on our YouTube channel with the University of Texas. We're helping them build their collection of fungi specimens, which is housed in the UT Tower. So when we'll be planning more and more events as the weather cooperates, where we see some fruiting mushrooms, to teach people how to be citizens, how to get involved and be citizen scientists and help build this collection. So one of the other big things that happened last year in our organization is we worked with our advisors to get an official state mushroom. And so it is the Coriactress Gaster, which is also known as the Texas star mushroom or the cigar mushroom. And it is really unique to this part of Texas, and it's very geographically rare. So it's only found kind of along the I-35 corridor down to San Antonio, up to the border of Oklahoma. And so we're now one of only 3 states that have an official state mushroom. The other one is Wisconsin and Oregon. But we have this geographically rare mushroom that is only found in Central Texas and has been found a few times in the country of Japan, which is really weird. And scientists have no idea yet why it happens in Japan too. It actually grows on oaks in Japan, and in Central Texas, it grows on the stumps of dead cedar elms that are about 5 or so years old, dead. So it has to be already decomposing with bacteria and other things. And then the fungi sets in around 5 years of the tree being dead. And it pops up these beautiful, let me just show you all the photos. So it pops up these beautiful cigar type shapes that then open into up to a 4 to 7 point star. And just this last year, it was also recorded, it makes a hissing noise when it opens. And so now that it's our state mushroom, there's been a lot of people documenting this and trying to get really good footage of this sort of event happening. And so last year we did walks all up and down the corridor with different groups mycology groups where we took people out to see this beautiful mushroom. And I think this year we're going to try to do our first sort of Texas festival. So work with all of the groups, all of the mycological groups in Texas, and put on a festival, a larger kind of event around this time of year. So beginning of December or so. So that's tentative, so don't quote me on it, but it's a goal. So yeah. So now I'll tell you a little bit about me. So my name is Angel Schatz, and I live in Austin. And for about 15 years or so, I worked in digital design and animation and did a lot of experience design, working for a lot of big tech companies, trying to solve various problems. And I, was fortunate enough to grow up around mushrooms. I grew up in the Midwest in Missouri, and I was exposed to the morels, which you all may know. It's a very popular culinary mushroom. And I would go out with my granddad, and I see your shirt, nice. I'd go out with my granddad and we pick morels every year, and then deep fry them, which is what everyone did there, which is good, but there's a lot of great ways to cook morels, as some of you may know. So I kind of forgot about these childhood experiences once I became an adult. And about 7 years ago, I was able to transition out of work and kind of shift some things around. So I wanted to focus more on like food systems and helping people build resilience through gardening and doing art and foraging and that sort of thing. And so, knowing about like, and working in tech and too, and like learning about, this sort of like the Earth's internet, right? Or the Wood Wide Web, what people call it. It was very fascinating to me. And I, one of the first things I did when I quit working full time was take a mushroom trip to Mexico with Alan Rockefeller, and we went into the mountains with a group of mycophiles from all over the world in northern Mexico, and it was just so much fun, and such a beautiful ecosystem. And it's part of there's a teacher that worked in this part of Mexico to make almost the whole state of Querétaro a biosphere, so protected land. And just being able to go there, be in the cloud forest, be so humbled, and see mushrooms in that context, and be kind of around people that were so passionate about plants and mushrooms, really kind of rekindled that love. And then finding out morels grow in Texas, that set me on another path, searching for mushrooms. And when the pandemic shut everything down, that was the year that I was able to finally get outside and turn off the news and find some morel mushrooms. So that's kind of my origin story. I know everybody has like different ways that they've kind of come in and out of their fascination with fungi. But along that journey, like looking for morels, I just continue to find more and more things and learn more and more things as a citizen, scientist, and enthusiast that just blow my mind. And I want to just keep learning more and more and share that passion with everybody else. So that's what I will be sharing today. And so I'd love for everybody to really just share some of the things too about that have gotten them so enthusiastic and about fungi or mushrooms as well in the chat, and just keep that chat live. So we'll be covering some general history, terminology, fungal life cycle. We'll learn some fantastic facts about fungi, and I'll be sharing lots of photos that most of them I've taken of mushrooms that I've found in Central Texas. We'll learn how fungi benefits the soil, and I'll also send you all on everybody that's interested in growing mushrooms. I'll send you to some places that I recommend in a program that we have on our website where you can learn how to grow them outdoors. So first, I'm just going to go over some fungal terms. So first, and these are just words that I'll be using throughout the presentation. So spores, which are a microscopic reproductive method. We have a hyphae, which is a single filament of mycelium. And then mycelium is a system of hyphae. Colonization is mycelium growing together. Mycorrhizal means related to the roots. Symbiotic means mutually beneficial organisms. And parasitic is living at the expense of the host. So we're going to start off with a little bit of taking a look at the phylogenetic tree of life. And this is one visualization that I really liked that kind of shows where we land and then where fungi is. And this is like very humbling to see. And you can even see like when we've had these mass extinctions, right, throughout throughout this planet's tree of life. And so you see fungi has been here for a long time, way before any sort of life, mammals, amphibians, reptiles, birds was on this planet. So it's been cleaning up the planet, making it habitable, making it something that we can exist on. So it's a nice view to see. And so, mushrooms also inhale oxygen and exhale carbon like us. So mushrooms were grouped both with plants and animals till about 1969. And a scientist named Robert Whitaker published the first major revision to the two kingdom classification system. And he proposed that there be 5 kingdoms, that meaning fungi now had its own kingdom or queendom, whichever one you like to use. And so just a few years later, we had psilocybin or psychedelic or magic mushrooms. They were placed under Schedule 1. And as we all know, this has led to kind of creating a real mycophobic culture in the West, and it's halted a lot of research. But as things are there's some things that are starting to change, and it halted a lot of research, not only in just psilocybin, but other things, fungal. And so there's a lot of work that we have to do. And that's why it's so important that we all are enthusiastic and can do what we can as citizen scientists to like help our culture, society overcome this mycophobia. So we've only identified about 10% of mushrooms on this earth, or on Earth, this Earth. That sounds weird. Okay. So yeah. So now we're looking at an infographic that is the mushroom life cycle, which remains largely invisible. And so mushrooms are the fruit bodies or the reproductive organs in the mushroom life cycle. And for most species, it only occurs for a few days and then it disappears. And many species of fungi do not even create fruiting bodies. And that's why we don't know that about that many. Some of them live within the systems of plants, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And so spores are kind of like the seeds, and they hold a lot of the genetic information about a specific species of mushrooms. And so spores have about half of the fungi's complete set of genes, and they are a unicellular dispersal unit that has specialized adaptations that protect the cell until the environmental conditions are perfect for growing. And so then the germination happens and the inoculation, and the spores fall on a growth medium, or in the cultivation world for mushroom growers, it's called substrate. And if those conditions in the medium is just perfect, the right moisture, soil temperature, the spores will then germinate. And then next, fine, thin threads of filament known as the hyphae grow from the spores, and then compatible hyphae mate to create fertile mycelium. And so this developing mycelium breaks down organic matter and absorbs nutrients from its surroundings. And during this stage of growth, mycelium expands at an exponential rate. And in its environment, mycelium encounters many competitors and predators, which it repels with amazing array of protective enzymes and compounds. And in a sense, this mycelium, it's really doing a lot of the work, and it's the immune system of a mushroom or of this fungal life cycle. And so a hyphal knot, mycelium condenses into a hyphal knot, which then develops into primordia or baby mushrooms. In the cultivation world, they're called pins because they kind of look like bowling pins. So then the fruit body happens, and from thousands of these little baby mushrooms or primordia, the growing organism selects the most promising few to develop into mature fruit bodies. And then it's back to the beginning of the cycle. And the fruit body releases spores again into the environment, and the life cycle starts again. So here we see another infographic of some anatomy of mushrooms. So this is just the fruit body. And so as you can see here, there's a lot of words and terminology to learn here. And we won't get into all of the detail of each one of these things because this isn't necessarily a mushroom identification class, but you can see that every mushroom has these very specific traits, and morphology is the word we like to use. So there's things that happen like reticulum or scales. There's the universal veil, gills, zonation. And so when you're reading a mushroom identification book or reading about mushrooms, you may see these words, teeth, pores. And so I'll try to point out some of these attributes as we go along. And Tim, I see you have a question about making the slides available. So this recording will be on YouTube, so you can always catch it on YouTube later. Okay, so spores are everywhere. So every breath contains about 1 to 10 detectable spores. And a recent study that came out a few years ago, it sampled air in Oklahoma and found nanoparticles. It had the technology to look at these nanoparticles. And it's now believed that there are 2 to 3 times more in the way of fungal spore fragments than we previously thought. So now that we can see these things, nanoparticles, we're breathing even more of it than we thought. So, and as I mentioned, the most important part of the fungal life cycle lives under your feet as you walk. And so if you've ever noticed these spider web-like strands in the soil, that's what is the mycelium. And it's responsible for eventually creating mushrooms. And mycelium is so tiny that 1 cubic inch of soil can contain enough mycelium to stretch for about 8 miles. And it is the vegetative part of a fungus, and it consists of a network of these fine white filaments called hyphae. And so these spider web-like strands of mycelium are needed to help keep the fungi organism alive. And so the more it touches, the more it consumes, and eventually goes through that cycle and recreates itself again. And so it's a large part of the reason why we have soil and, we started with water, and eventually fungi made its way onto land and helping build what we have today and helped plants become what they are today as well. And so mycelium forms this important communication network. You hear these terms called the wood wide web, the Earth's internet. And so this web beneath our feet connects a vast system of roots from plants and trees all over the planet, distributing nutrients and water through this tube-like internet. And 95% of plants form this relationship with fungi. And so through these tubes of mycelium, information about the environment, such as changes in soil moisture, water purity, and pollution, are communicated to the ecosystem. So plants, insects, microbes all use this information for their survival and coexistence. And so if you've seen the movie, a lot of people have seen the movie Fantastic Fungi, which came out last year, I believe, on Netflix. It gets into this research that was discovered, by a scientist up in the Pacific Northwest. So globally, the total length of fungal mycelium in the top 10 centimeters of soil is more than 450 quadrillion kilometers. And so we did a program a couple months back with a new nonprofit. They're based in Europe, but they're doing projects all over the world. And they recently announced their partnership with the Fungi Foundation, where they're going to do one of their first mycelial mapping projects. So they are doing soil samples and doing determining the sort of biome of the soil so that they can map this biodiversity all over the globe. And so they're going with the Fungi Foundation into Patagonia, into these very undisturbed, fungally rich environments to do this work. And so they will be announcing more programs where citizens can get involved and follow along. But if you don't follow this organization and you're curious about how this all will work, it's very exciting to follow along. So Spun Underground is their Instagram. I believe they're on other social medias as well. So fungi can live everywhere in the ocean. As I mentioned, fungi started in the ocean. We were a water planet. It can survive in deserts, volcanic lava flows, vacuums of space. And so fossilized mycelium in lava flows have been found to be 2.4 billion years old. This would make the fungi kingdom the earliest known complex multicellular life, one of the first living organisms and living networks. And so, yeah, it was likely that at some point spores made it to our planet traveling on a meteor or space dust. So we've had, as you saw, we had all of these different extinction events throughout our life as a planet. And there's also certain types of fungi that were not here. For example, there's a certain types of decomposer fungi that were not here until after the Jurassic period. And that is the reason why we have a limited amount of oil and coal, because we now have fungi on our planet to decompose oil. And it's the same types of fungi that can also clean up oil spills and clean up, eat plastic and eat poly-based things. It's because they have arrived and evolved to be able to clean up our oily mess that we're pulling up from the earth. So over 400 million years ago, long before humans were here, a giant fungi called Prototaxides, the size of trees, feasted on dead, growing slowly to the largest living thing on the land. And it ultimately made life on land possible. And so the fungi kingdom does not need humans to survive. So it's important that we learn as much as we can and learn from it. And so you can watch, there's a short PBS documentary on the Eon series that you can watch online about Prototaxides. So I definitely recommend everybody check it out. And here's a fossil of that particular mushroom that was found. And so one of the reasons why we find there's mycophobia, we find mushrooms scary, is that there are poisonous mushrooms and they can kill humans. And, there was a period in the 15th century in Europe where a lot of prominent figures either died or there was assassinations using toxic fungi. And so that's created a lot of mycophobia in our culture, along with a lot of other things, especially the war on drugs. And so there's only about 1% to 2% of mushrooms that are poisonous, and only about a dozen that are fatal. And so there's only one that I'm aware of that we have found in Central Texas, that I've found in Central Texas, that's fatal. And that is the Eastern North American destroying angel. And so this is some different images. So it's important to know this mushroom better than any one mushroom. And I personally stay away from consuming amanitas. I know there's some in Central Texas that are edible, but yeah. And we're not going to go into too much on ID. We're doing kind of 101, but it's always good to know the deadly ones. So this is the one to study the morphology, understand how it looks, more than anything. So now we're going to zoom into the soil. And so if you're a gardener or farmer, you may have seen this chart. It comes from the USDA, and it breaks down the sort of trophic levels of the soil. And so you can see in the second trophic level is fungi. And so it has a very important role in the process of feeding essentially all of these things down the chain in the soil. And then eventually, if we get fruiting mushrooms, it feeds us. And so there are these 4 kind of main categories that we like to look at. And there's a lot of things that sort of weave back and forth that, there's some things that, like sometimes a mushroom can be both of those. So it's a loose categorization process, but there are what's called saprophytic mushrooms, and those are our decomposers. So those are wood, lignin, cellulose. Those are the ones that love to consume woody matter, and they essentially build our soil. Then we have the Mycorrhizal, and that is the mushrooms that create a symbiotic relationship, and they do this beautiful dance where they do an exchange. The mushroom gives water and trace minerals and nutrients and nitrogen and phosphate to the trees and plants, and the trees give the mycelium, the mycorrhizal, sugar. So they're a lot like us. They like sugar. So then there are parasitic. And so these are the ones that attack living hosts for nutrients. And then there are endophytic fungi, which are present throughout the lifespan of plants and don't necessarily always create fruit. And so yeast molds are also fungi. And so they're also in our soils. And then we use them for things in our food. So breads, kombucha, beer, wine, soy sauce, fermented things, all of that is dependent on fungi. So we're going to dig into this larger category and look at a couple of different mushrooms, common mushrooms that you may see in our ecosystem. And all of these are from photos that I've taken in Central Texas. So this category of saprophytic are decomposers. They are nutrient circulators, and they're critical to the formation and regeneration of soils. They form close relationships with the vast majority of leafy plants. So you see here, there's ink caps. A lot of people see these pop up right after a rain. There's this yellow parasol mushroom, which a lot of people see pop up in houseplants. Other examples are oysters, shiitakes. We see a lot of people growing shiitakes on logs, and that's one. Reishi is another one. Turkey tail, and reishi is like a very popular. Reishi and turkey tail are very popular medicinal mushrooms. And then this chicken of the woods here in Central Texas, it colonizes the heartwood of live oak trees. So I've seen it a couple times being just decomposing, but most of the time it's on a tree that's still alive. And it's slowly kind of eating away at the heartwood. So, when we're making room for our houses and trimming our beautiful live oaks, when we expose that heartwood, the spores that are just floating everywhere, they're finding, they're going to land on that heartwood and find that becomes mealtime for them. And so over the years, and I'm not aware of like many studies because it's, a tree's lifespan, especially live oak trees, like extends our lifespan by many 100 years. And so it's just a really, 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 really slow process that's always happened. So a lot of people, when they see this mushroom on their tree, they either know what it is and they take it and eat it, but most people kind of panic and they think, oh my gosh, I've got to stop it. But once you see this beautiful fruiting orange mushroom on your tree, there's nothing you can do to stop it. Spores have already colonized. And so all of these, so someone asked, are they edible? So the one on the right, the chicken of the woods, is a choice edible. And the two on the left, the reishi and the turkey tail, are medicinal. So we like to make a reishi ginger hibiscus tea that we have at a lot of our in-person events, because it's a very bitter kind of tonic or a bitter beverage. So you can really knock it out with that acidity of hibiscus, and then add a little bit of honey or sweetener, some ginger too. It's really nice. So now we're going to talk about the second division of fungi, which is the mycorrhizal, which means related to the roots. And so this division of fungi forms beneficial relationships with the roots. And so there's endomycorrhizal, which is on certain types of tree, and there's ectomycorrhizal. And so it's estimated that about 95% of plants form mycorrhizal partnerships with fungi. And so the mycelium brings in the water, the phosphorus, other nutrients through the roots, and the mycorrhizal greatly increases the surface area of the plant's root system, which is hugely beneficial in areas, especially like Texas, where we have droughts and we need to have as many roots established as possible for the plant to stay alive and get enough water. And so the larger the surface area, it gives it an advantage to compete for nutrients. And so many farmers and gardeners are starting to buy mycorrhizal inoculated soils and use them in nurseries and things like that. You can kind of see some examples here of with and without mycorrhizae. So some example mushrooms that are mycorrhizal are truffles. And I saw someone from Austin just today share some pecan truffles that they had found under their tree in their garden or in their yard. So yeah, so pecan truffles are mycorrhizal. So they have a relationship with that pecan tree. So they're like exchanging sugar for these nutrients. And a truffle, as you all may know, it doesn't fully create a fruit body. It just stays within the soil and is like a mycelial mass. It never makes like a mushroom. So it stays like a tight hyphal knot.
How does it reproduce?
What was that?
How does it reproduce?
So I'm not sure if you can inoculate. I don't know much about. A lot of people message us about doing inoculations with pecan truffles. And from what I understand, it's fairly hard and it's a long, long investment because it takes about 10 years for the mycorrhizae to develop and establish. And so these mushrooms that you see, they're very difficult to cultivate because of that very delicate exchange with another plant and that relationship. And so that's why they're so pricey in the grocery stores and why they're highly prized, and people kind of go bananas over certain mushrooms like morels because they can only be grown in the wild. Although there's a lot of patents on different processes for cultivation. I've seen them for both growing chanterelles and also morels. There's a project called the Danish Morel Project. If you Google that, you can learn about this Danish company that is growing mushrooms, cultivating mushrooms, I believe indoors. And so they seem, as it seems, and from my experience seeing them in the wild, like people have always said that they're mycorrhizal with juniper ash, but I think it's more about a certain type of mycorrhizae in the soil, maybe related to grass and just very specific soil conditions. And all the grow operations that I've seen with morels, there's no plant like a tree or anything involved. There's always grasses and different types of soil stratification methods. So it's all about that soil and the plants that it's growing with, and not necessarily a tree. So chanterelles, on the other hand, in Central Texas, I find they have a mycorrhizal relationship with live escarpment or Texas live oak trees. So kind of mature Texas live oak trees that have a lot of like leaf litter, and undisturbed soils. So yeah, so now we're going to get into parasitic fungi. And so some of y'all may have learned that the largest organism on our planet is actually a parasitic fungus. And in 1998, a team from the US Forest Service set out to investigate the cause of a large tree die-off in East Oregon. And several species of fungi belonging to the Amarilla genus, which is popularly known as the honey mushroom or honey fungus, were found to cover 2,385 acres. And so they colonize and kill a variety of trees and woody plants. And these are also found in Central Texas. I find them also by Texas live oaks, in very dry, sandy areas exposed to a lot of sun. And they don't seem to be killing the oaks, although our oaks, they sort of coexist with a lot of kind of fungal pathogens and parasitic, and like I was mentioning, the chicken of the woods mushroom too. And so lion's mane is another one that is a saprotrophic, but also parasitic. And so in Central Texas, I find this one growing on the cankers of post oak trees that are sort of, that have some sort of damage to the bark because of like drought and oak wilt, things like that. So, and if you've seen the movie or documentary Planet Earth, you've seen this segment where they show the zombie ants that get infected by fungus that then take control of their muscles, driving them away from the colony to the highest point of the tree for the best spore dispersal. And then they grow a big, as you see this like mushroom out of the back of their neck, and they release the spores and eventually take out the whole colony. And so to the left, you see another very popular medicinal mushroom called the Cordyceps Militaris. And this mushroom, it grows on caterpillar pupae. And more recently in the United States, a friend of the Mycological Society, William Padilla Brown, he and a couple of other people accidentally learned how to cultivate it on wheat berries. So we no longer need to rely on finding them in the wild. And so it's found in most health food stores. You can find cordyceps powders, tinctures, things like that. And so it's considered an aphrodisiac. It's used to help oxygenate the blood. Not going to get into too much of the medicinal properties, but definitely if anything piques your interest, write down the name of the mushroom and read up some more about it online. So this is a mushroom that was recently chemical analysis by plant pathologist Matthew Casson of West Virginia University found that this Massospora cicadina, I'm not saying it right, cicadina, found in the soil, it infects periodical cicada males when they come out to mate. And so when he did the chemical analysis, he discovered that this fungus contains both psilocybin, which is what's in magic mushrooms, and something that's in like amphetamines. And so there's been a lot of articles written about this particular like this particular infection when it's found in the wild. I haven't seen it myself. This is a photo someone else took. But what happens is that when it's infected, it comes out and it mates like crazy. And then it spreads the fungi everywhere, eventually like spreading to other males in the colony, and then it dies. And so we all know like cicadas come up, they mate, and then they die. But this fungal pathogen that was found on these cicadas, it may like help aid in that sort of mating ritual that happens every period of 13 to 17 years. And if you follow us online, you may have seen our mushroom of the month was a fungus that was discovered about 10 years ago now. And we're actually going to have a talk with the scientists at the Balcones Field Research Lab, Dr. Edward Lebrun, who made this discovery. But there's this fungi that they've been using and they found in the stomachs of tawny crazy ants. So does anybody know about this invasive ant? Because I've known about it for a while, but I've also had my house has been paid a visit by this particular ant. And they are, another name for this ant is called the crazy ants, like crazy ants or tawny crazy ants. It was originally found in Houston area by a exterminator, like a pest exterminator, and he named it the raspberry crazy ant. So there's been a lot of stuff in the news about it over the years, people fighting over what the name should be. But he did it. I guess he did some of the work that you needed to do to call it a raspberry crazy ant. But they move in really odd patterns like you've never seen before. They don't sort of march like some ants do. They really move in these zigzag lines and move very rapidly, and really they're kind of fun to watch. So this study that was done recently, they found this fungi in the stomachs of they found these spores in the stomachs of these crazy ants. And so they were able to do some tests and prove that they can take out this super colony. So this super colony of ants, they even take out fire ants. That's how vigorous they are. And they also will eat away at electrical equipment. So they don't like the frequency, or there's something they don't like. So there's been a lot of like worry in Texas about this particular ant that comes up from South and Central America. So fun to read about. There's about 20 or 30 articles that came out a couple weeks ago about these ants. You can find lots of stuff about them online. So we're in this parasitic fungi. So they prey on plants, trees, animals, even humans. And this type of fungus weakens trees and nourishes other organisms. So some popular examples are dandruff and foot fungus. And so this is a picture of powdery mildew. So if you're a gardener, you know about this one. That's also considered parasitic. So this last category is endophytic fungi. And so it lives in a plant for at least part of its life cycle without causing any apparent disease. And endophytes are ubiquitous and have been known in all species of plants studied to date. So, however, most of the endophyte plant relationships are not well understood, mostly because we don't see them. Like, you need very specialized equipment to be able to look at the fungus in the leaf tissues, as you kind of see here. So here's just an example of Endophytes enhance host growth. They have ability to absorb nutrients, improve the plant's ability to tolerate stresses such as drought, salinity, decrease stresses by enhancing plant resistance to insects and pathogens and herbivores. And so endophytic fungi has been of great interest over the last few decades because they produce so many important compounds and enzymes for medicines, biocontrols, all those sort of things. And so researchers have discovered that a fungal endophyte associated with the pepper plant, and it also creates the compound, as you all know, capsaicin, which makes the pepper spicy. And this fungal relationship allows the plant to deter insects and other fungal pathogens. So it's kind of a fungal relationship protecting itself from other fungi. And so here we see, just some of the other things that how fungi can benefit you and our environment. It helps us create healthy soil, cycle carbon and nutrients, better plant growth, water retention. There's also ways that you can do mycoremediation, mycofiltration to clean up oil spills, plastics. I didn't even get too much into the nutrition and the medicine and the benefits, but mushrooms have melanin, so they absorb vitamin D and convert that into medicine for us. So, we also get these trace minerals that a lot of other foods lack, our beta glucans, our complex sugars. There's a lot of research and funding going into using fungi to make natural leathers and dyes and packing materials, and use fungi to do construction, like repair things like concrete or even build structures with mycelium. So yeah, and if you're wanting to learn more, if you're a gardener or you're into gardening or want to learn very low-tech beginner ways to grow mushrooms, we have our mushroom block giveaway program. So we have 12 locations throughout Central Texas where you can pick up blocks that have been that would have gone in the waste stream, but we work with a group of multiple volunteers that help keep all of these sites full of mushrooms for people to experiment with. So we have a video series of 6 different ways that you can use them. And if you don't have like a yard or anything like that, there's also ways you can do them in containers on your porch or balcony. There's ways to even do them like in, we occasionally do kind of community projects. So definitely check out our programs. And we also have some events that we do out at the Myco Research Station, helping learn how to use these mushroom blocks to do mycoremediation and compost building projects. And here's some of my book recommendations. There's a lot of them out there, but Radical Mycology, it's very comprehensive. So if you're wanting to get into, everything from, it covers, it's like I forget how many pages, it's really thick, but it gets into everything from cultivation, learning how to grow, to mycoremediation, to some culinary things, ethno-mycological, history. It's a great book. And then Entangled Life came out, I believe, 2 years ago during the pandemic. That's a really great book that is inspiring. It's not heavy on the science, but it's heavy on the fantastic way that fungi are entangled in all of our lives. And if you're wanting to learn how to better identify mushrooms, Mushrooms of the Gulf Coast States is the newest book. And it's written by several mycologists, including David Lewis. So I'd like to do a quick giveaway. We can, we'll do a t-shirt giveaway. So the first person to put in the chat the correct answer to the next question on the slide, we will send you, or if you're in Austin, you can come pick one up. So yeah, so let's do this. Here is our question. What is the name of the fungus that ruled the planet 470 to 360 million years ago? Oh, Taylor or Tyler. Yay. Okay, Tyler, make sure that you send us an email on our website. We have a general inquiry. Send us your info. And if you're in Austin, Central Austin, we can, if you're in the area, you can come by. I can give you an address, or I can get your info if you're out of town. Good job, Tyler. All right. So yeah, Prototaxides. And definitely check out that short documentary on Eons, PBS. Fun watch. And if you aren't yet a member, we encourage you to become a member. Membership includes access to our member-only events. We give all of our members priority tickets. There's discounts on workshops, unlimited recycled mushroom blocks for members. We do organizational support with access to educational libraries. We also have a Discord chat. And yeah, anyone can become a member. We have members all over the world, so you don't necessarily have to be in Central Texas. You can become a member from elsewhere. We do probably, I would say, about half of our programming is online. We do workshops. We do a lot of free online programming, which brings me to the next slide. So our next in-person event will be next Tuesday. We're going to be out at Twilight Tuesdays at the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center again. So that's from 5 to 8 p.m. And we're just going to be out there with a table talking to people about our favorite subject, mushrooms and fungi. And then on the 21st of April, we have a free online class about mushrooms, color theory, and the biomimicry of nature. And this class will be presented in both Spanish and English. So please invite your Spanish-speaking friends, and we will have translation available on a different channel, which is a really cool thing to be able to offer. So yeah. And so now we can do questions. What do you all want to ask me about mushrooms?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so you might not be able to answer this, but I bought some Morel spores.
Mm-hmm.
I know they grow here because in 2010 I found over 3,000 in the Bell County area.
Nice.
But since then I haven't found any. So I don't know what's going on. I think it's the weather because we had a big
weather.
Snow.
You got it. It's the weather. So this year, at least for Central Texas, it was a bust, and I was very disappointed. I even brought Kieran, our sustainability intern. One of the activities we did is we went and watered some Morel spots. We were so desperate. And so, as mentioned, like the conditions have to be favorable. You have to have the right kind of conditions. So for chanterelles, they like a lot of rain, almost like flash flood style rain. So when you go outside and it feels like a sauna and you don't want to be outside, that's when the chanterelles are growing. So you got to go outside and look for them.
Right.
And for morels, there's just this perfect window of just a few weeks in Central Texas where the soil temperatures have to be just perfect. And then you have to have moisture. So we had the soil temperatures, and everything was kind of delayed this year because of our little Arctic wobble we have going on.
Right.
So we were able to find, we weren't able to get any in Central Texas, but the last weekend, I believe, or 2 weekends ago, it's the first weekend of April, North Texas Mycological Society, they had a foray out up at the border near Sherman, Texas, and they found a few morels. It wasn't a lot, but there were some people that were finding them. But yeah, we've kind of passed that window. The ground temperatures are now too high.
Right.
Sun's come out full on. It's just it's a sad day.
Well, I have the spores, and I was gonna try to grow them in my backyard. But my question is, do I need to make would it be best to do like a slurry or like a?
Do you know what species you bought?
I actually have two. I have the black ones and the yellow ones.
So the black ones are kind of like landscape. They're considered like landscape species.
Right.
And I don't know much about what kind of soil they like, but I know they grow in California. And anybody else that wants to pipe in, if they know any more, feel free.
I know they grow on burn sites.
Yeah, like there's some morel species, they are called burn morels, and they
can't say anything because we've had a great season in Oklahoma so far.
I know. Be quiet. Don't tell us. Don't rub it in.
Sorry, it's been awful, terrible. Never mind.
I will drive to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
No, like, seriously, Southern Oklahoma, they've had a great year. There's a Facebook group called Oklahoma Morel Hunters. Maybe reach out there and someone will take you to a spot.
I doubt that, but
maybe not their personal spot, maybe not their honey spot, but they might go out looking with you. There's some old folks that are kinder than some others.
Well, let's give some other folks a chance to ask questions. So Sebastian, you had your hand raised.
Yes, so the Mesospora. Yeah, that one, the fruit that comes out of the abdomen of the cicada.
Yes, it comes out of the abdomen.
Does it contain psilocybin?
It does, and also amphetamines. And so it kind of is like spores in the body, and it blows off the abdomen. And so the cicada is still able to mate. And it does what people call as a salt shaker dance, where it's like spreading the spores everywhere. And I think that it's been documented. You can find it online, but I may be wrong. It might just be like scientists like writing about it and telling you about it. But definitely read some articles about that one. It's fascinating.
But edible?
I mean, you'd probably have to get a lot of if you wanted to get the medicine out of them, you'd have to do find a lot of those. And I'm not sure if those type of cicadas also are found in Central Texas either. I don't know my entomology very well, but I do know that it's the periodical cicadas that it's been found on.
Yes.
Oh, so Ryan says chemist Hamilton Morrison said 10 cicadas to be able to get the right amount of medicine. Or that might be a joke too. I don't know. Ryan, are you joking with us?
Nah.
Okay, so Julia.
Hi, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, I'm really new to this, but two questions. I have a friend who eats the SCOBY of his kombucha mushroom. And I was wondering if you know anything about the benefits of that, or if you'd advise against it. And also, can you talk about the subject of ingesting mushrooms in general? It seems like to me that there would be, like, I remember reading about candida, and on an anti-candida diet they say don't eat mushrooms because it's a fungus, but that's so general. It seems like
too general. Yeah, I agree.
It seems like some mushrooms, from what you've said, some mushrooms would be symbiotic and help us. Like, I'm really interested in the reishi for blood oxygen, for altitude sickness. And then and then some could maybe, take over our intestines and, intrude on our processes. So
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, please? Thanks.
Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't studied nutrition that much, but there are a few things just being enthusiastic about fungi that I have come across. And you can further kind of like use those keywords and maybe dig a little bit deeper yourself. But to the kombucha question, I am not sure about the kombucha, but Drea in the chat, she said that she has a friend that likes to, people like to candy the SCOBY. And so I would think that it's like really good for you because like it's a lot of like the types of yeasts and bacterias that are really good for your stomach. That's why kombucha is like considered a probiotic. But I don't know the specific chemistry or like what all is what's concentrated into the SCOBY. I do know there are people that experiment with like making materials with SCOBY, like different alternative packing materials and things like that. There's even been people that make clothing out of that type of bacteria or yeast. I might be saying it's like a symbiotic. What does SCOBY stand for? I forget. It's like symbiotic, some colony of yeast and bacteria. That's what it is. I think that's right. Getting to the mushrooms and edibility. So one of the things that I didn't mention, which is a good thing to just practice across the board, is you always want to cook fungi when eating them. So they contain long chain sugars that are complex, and they include what's called chitin, which is in exoskeletons of shellfish, things like that. It's not like this, it doesn't contain all the same compounds in shellfish that might make people allergic or whatnot, but it is the same thing that's in. That, you can see how that might be irritating to your stomach if you don't apply heat and break that down. So all mushrooms need to be cooked. And so a lot of people say, oh, I eat, agaricus or kind of button mushrooms in my salad. Well, that's a whole nother category of mushrooms like that have been cultivated in certain ways over the years. And from what I know, like some agaricus mushrooms are probably okay with not being cooked, but I personally just don't like that texture. I actually really like that slimy mushroom, and that's what turns a lot of people off from mushrooms too. But that like when you see that sliminess, you're getting beta glucans, these complex sugars that are really, really good for your stomach. And so different mushrooms have different compounds in them. So I know I've read some studies on lion's mane, it helping regulate your microbiome and helping with things like candida. So I've done a few searches. So just search lion's mane and candida. There's some studies and white papers or scholar papers that you can read and get into the details on that. But it's not something that I could off the dome talk about for a while. I just know that adding lion's mane to my diet, and especially with like using it in baked goods, especially things that I have sugars in, it just seems to balance things out a little bit. And I try to have it every day if I can. And I'm very fortunate to be a mushroom block pickup site. So I always have lion's manes and all these mushrooms that I dehydrate and powder. But as I mentioned, we have the mushroom block giveaway. We always have a lot of lion's mane. So definitely, pick up some lion's manes and powder them, dehydrate them, use them in soups and teas. And it's such a beneficial mushroom. Can't say enough good things about it. But every mushroom is different. So yeah. All right. Anybody? Oh, I see that Royce.
Yeah. I actually have some lion's mane growing right here. But
yeah, buddy.
I was actually going to ask because I'm trying to study mushrooms right now, and I was hoping you could clarify for me what the differences between ecto and endo mycorrhizal mushrooms? Because I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, so the two and there's actually like a couple of other mycorrhizal, like orchids have their own little category too. And I think there's like, I forget how many there are, but the two main ones are ecto and endo, and I'm kind of dyslexic. I always forget which one goes with which, but the one of them is with like inside and outside the house, and inside and outside the plant. Oh yeah, like the roots. So some are inside the roots and some are outside of the roots. So kind of like enveloping them. And there's been some really nice microscopy video that people have been taking to show how this mycorrhizal relationship of endo and ecto works. I think on it was the author of that book, Entangled Life. He recently shared some beautiful microscopy animation or like video of mycorrhizal fungi, Merlin sheldrake. Yeah. So if you go to his Instagram, if you're on there, look up Merlin sheldrake, and you'll see some really cool pictures of the mycorrhizal. So I can't remember which one is which, but I imagine like endo is inside, ecto out. That makes sense. But there's also conifers, and and then hardwoods. Like different types of trees also kind of have, have the different types too, endo, ecto.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, that would be a fun, just that on it in itself could be a really fun talk. And I've seen a few talks where it just is all about mycorrhizae and those types, and you can really nerd out on that stuff. But yeah, it's something I want to learn more about too. So
nice. Okay, thank you.
Would you show your lion's mane again?
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, that little. Okay, I was looking for.
Yeah, it's just started, so like.
Okay.
Let me see
if you can't see the teeth on it yet.
No.
Can you grow it in your house?
Yes, it is growing in my apartment room.
Okay. Is it better to grow mushrooms inside or outside?
I have this little plastic humidity cover that I keep on it when in between watering, and I just uncovered it to show it.
Cool.
Yeah. So someone else just asked.
I just asked. That was on Trees Westwood.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I had a stroke about almost 2 years ago, and I suffered brain damage and some neurological some neurological damage, and so I use lion's mane to help to restore some of my brain functionality, if you will. But the only problem is that I live in Maryland and it's very expensive here. I mean, I haven't learned where to forage it as of yet. However, buying it in the store is just like one bulb is like $10, $11.
Yes.
You're kidding me.
It's expensive. It gets very expensive. That's why we feel so fortunate that we have this program here. And you said you're in Maryland, right?
I'm in Maryland, yes. And I'm a part of a foraging meetup group. I just started really getting into mushrooms, as I stated earlier in the chat. My daughter has introduced me to a wide array of mushroom and their benefits. She's really been into mushrooms for some time, so she's kind of pulled me along, and I'm glad because beautiful. I see the many benefits of it, and so I'm just really just diving in. I also drink that reishi tea. Tea, which it has the lion's mane, the reishi, the what is it? The C word? I can't. How you pronounce that again?
Cordyceps.
The cordyceps. Yes. Yeah. So it has a few of those really good mushrooms in that coffee, and I really like that. Trying to bring myself up. I've never really been a true coffee drinker. I just really started drinking coffee, but I've tasted these, mushroom coffee, and I'm trying to now incorporate that more into my daily regimen.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm glad that you're on a path to recovery.
You're welcome.
Sounds like you found a great resource, and I hope that I just recommend like trying to reach out to mushroom growers that you find in your area, because they may be taking this stuff and just throwing it in the trash. I don't know if you all have organic or composting within your municipality or your city, but
I'm not sure.
if you maybe your daughter can help you too, like reach out to some mushroom growers and tell them your story, and I'm sure they would donate some blocks for you to get going. And we have that video series on our website so you can kind of see how to do it safely in your house and whatnot. But yeah. And someone asked, what kind of tea? Do you happen to know the name of the brand?
Yes, 1 second. It's there's one brand called
Mud water? Okay.
Yeah, the mud water, but then the one that I have is, wait a minute.
Is it Four Sigmatic?
No, it's well, it's called hold on. It's called Raise, RYZE, mushroom coffee. It has cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi, shiitake, turkey tail, and king trumpet.
Oh, beautiful. Very good. Well, I'm glad that's working out for you. Yeah, someone asked in the chat, like, what are the requirements to be a host, to host blocks? Tim, are you still there? So yeah, so the it really is all about, like, because we're pretty grassroots and we're all still volunteer run organizations. So it's really like we have a lot of people that have signed up. So it's really about you and your willingness to like kind of organize people, work with like our list of volunteers, collaborating with everyone to keep your site stocked. We have, if you're interested, just go ahead and send us a message about where you are, where you're located. We're working on trying to get a spot in San Antonio. So if anybody's joining us from San Antonio, we're trying to get down there. And, if people, want to help make trips to Buda, where the farm is, it really helps if you can get a group of 5 or 6 people and you could everybody could kind of split the load and take turns going down there. But really, we do a lot of the coordination, making sure that everybody knows the protocols, knows how much is available. And we all, as I mentioned, one of the benefits of being a member is being able to get on the Discord. So we organize on the Discord chat. So it just makes it easier for us all to communicate within topic channels. And we're at around 700 members now. So, there's a lot of people enthusiastic in helping with this program and making sure that they're available all over the area. Thanks, Ryan, for throwing that in the chat. Yay, San Antonio. That's right, Michelle. Are you in San Antonio? And then Ryan shared, there's a lot of research happening in the field of psychedelics. So just a few weeks ago, the University of Texas, they also announced that they're doing some research on using psychedelics for things like depression and those sorts of things, but also brain injuries. There's a movie that just came out, trying to remember the name of it. It's about a surfer that had a brain injury and how he helped heal his injury using psilocybin. And I wish I could remember the name of it. Can't now. But yeah, if you do surfer, psilocybin, brain injury, you'll probably find it, hopefully. But it just got released. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Yeah. Anybody want to say hi? Anything else? Tell a story?
Hi, this is Julia again, and I might be moving to Oklahoma and I kind of have to move to Oklahoma, and I also might be moving to Texas at some point. But I was interested. There was a woman on earlier who was from Southern Oklahoma, and I'm interested in
finding her Morel spots.
well, no. Actually, I just wanted to meet a friend, I guess. Sorry to use this
cool
forum, but I just wanted to. I could move to Southeast or Northeast Oklahoma, and I was just gonna see if she I don't know if she wants my contact.
I'm in Central Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who you're talking about, but just in case it's me, I'm in like the OKC area.
Okay,
Rachel, you were talking about the good, like you guys had a good season.
There's a excuse me, I almost said subreddit. There's a Facebook group called Oklahoma Morel Hunters. Okay. And the best thing about them is everyone's super excited to hop on Morel season. So as soon as they start seeing stuff, Facebook photos start flying, and they'll tag it with what county, and you can kind of see it sweep in as like, because the climate's a little bit different from southeast to central to north. So you can kind of get a feel for when it's about time to go, find your buddy who's got some land, or just go out there and, see when it's a good time to go looking.
And did you want to share, Rachel? Did you want to, you had your hand raised as well.
Oh, I had a weird question I'd asked earlier in the chat. Like I just throw things in their stream of consciousness. So you're talking about like mushroom blocks. I'm assuming like those are like the bag, like the substrate bag kit type things. Have you ever heard of anyone having success? Because I've seen on a couple different websites, forums, like there's a lot of like weird word of mouth stuff that gets passed around with some of these not so mainstream hobbies or interests. People will say, you get a couple blooms out of them, and then take them out back, break them up, churn them into your soil or substrate, and maybe, if you're lucky, if the weather's nice, someday you might see some actual fruiting bodies, some mushrooms. Have you ever had success with that? Because you were talking a little bit about growing mushrooms outside, and I was curious if that was the method, or if there's something else special going on here.
There's a couple methods, and I'm going to drop our program in the chat. So this is a big part of like what we teach people to do. So I'm also pretty active in the gardening community here in Central Texas. And so last year for TOFGA, which is Texas Organic Gardeners and Farmers Alliance, they have a conference, and we produced a video series showing 5 different ways you can take what's called spent mushroom substrate and turn it into essentially like feed it more sugar, give it more food, grow more mushrooms. And there's this window, a period of time in Texas when the ground temperatures are just cool enough where you can do this with mostly blue oysters. And we also do yellow oysters down here as well, and elm oysters. So so that link is, will teach you different ways. You can do, mix it in with wood chips. You can trench compost. You can grow them in straw in containers. You can simply just like inoculate a straw bale without even like taking the wires off, and see it grow like 10 times. Just I've grown so many mushrooms off just straw bale. And then use that straw as compost for your plants. So there's a bunch of different ways you can use them. And as I mentioned, like, we work with these farms that just have an infinite, just like an insane amount of mushroom blocks that we get after they've flushed. They fruit once at the farm, and then we take them and they fruit many, many more times. So Marcus?
Yes, I was just wondering, how can I join the Central Texas group that you guys?
So we have a website that you can sign up for our memberships. We have a couple different types of memberships. We have family memberships, we have single membership, and it's a annual reoccurring donation that you make that will definitely benefit you, but also the larger community. So we do As I mentioned, we have in-person and online events. About half of our programming is online. And some of our in-person stuff now, we're going to start making it also online. So you can join in person or online.
Okay.
So yeah, so definitely become a member, get to know us.
Sure.
Oh yeah, and thank you for looking up that film. So the movie about the surfer that is the movie that just came out called Resurfacing. It's about a surfer named Koa Smith who overcame a brain injury using psilocybin. All right, let's see, Michelle, you have your hand up.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I messed with the audio and it was a mess. But yeah, I wanted to see a few things. Like I know the bag thing that the organization does, Sam the Fungi, as he's known on Instagram, he volunteers a lot. Yeah. And I watch him on Instagram and he shows how he adds it to his entire garden, how it flushes a bunch of mushrooms. It's just great. So it definitely does work out like that where you break it up and plant it. I wanted to mention another way. It's all over YouTube on how to make your own little like tub to grow your bag of mushrooms. And it's great and all. It's really difficult to just like keep fanning it all the time, make sure it has enough moisture and oxygen and everything. But if you look up the Mela, it was a Indiegogo that I funded. So hopefully soon I'll get the chamber that they made, and it controls all that with your phone. So that's really cool to look into. And about people who wanted to take pills or supplements for mushrooms, like I said, the fresh fungi, or sorry, no, fresh cap. Fresh cap. Yeah, fresh cap. They have a lot of videos on YouTube where I've like binge watched them. They're great. And Mellow with 2 L's. And Fresh Cap sells their supplement where it has, I think, 6 of them, 6 powerful mushrooms. I forget. I've been taking it for like a month, but I don't. It's because I'm working, so I don't have the bottle with me. But I'm also really sedentary, so I really wanted to do what I could to help my body better, and it's been helping me out a lot. Especially the lion's mane that's in there too keeps me active during work. You know, I think it has cordyceps, I forget, but it has other great things that has been helping me out. And they have a subscription, so you could keep getting them in the mail. It's really good. They alert you before they charge you, so I definitely recommend it.
Okay, thanks for those tips. All right. Well, is that it? I don't see any other questions. Oh, wait.
Hi, sorry, this is Julia again. How hard is it to raise lion's mane, say indoors or in a pot or you know, without a yard?
Well, if you already have the like sort of a spawn block or a sawdust spawn, it can be pretty easy. But and I would, and the grow kits can be pretty expensive, but setting up a sterile environment and getting everything in place can get pretty pricey. And that's why like a lot of the grow blocks are pretty expensive, because they know the overhead costs of getting your own grow operation up is like pretty pricey. So it can be like getting a real sterile environment can be costly. And that's why we really like this program where we can work with the farms to take what they grow once and then give them to people to kind of experiment with like these outdoor methods, very low tech methods, so they can get a feel for it and then, ease them into learning how to grow in a sterile environment. But, I don't recommend trying to do something from scratch. It can be pretty challenging without all the proper equipment. And that's not something that I can go into tonight. It's a lot of information. I don't know all the information either. That's not my specialty. I'm more foraging, outdoor growing, that sort of stuff.
Can you just repeat, if you would, how I might get involved in obtaining one of those logs and becoming involved with, seeing the farms or getting that info? And then also, do the sterile conditions need to be enacted once the log is cultivated? Is the sterile just for starting it?
Yeah, so it's there's a lot there, but I would say the first question that that I would like to answer is like, just look up and look at your farmers markets and see, or Google like mushroom farm or mushroom cultivation in your area, or look at the farmers market, see who's selling there. A lot of farmers markets will have small mushroom growers at the farmers markets, and then see if they grow lion's mane. So just look in your area, see what farms are there, and then go from there. But as far as like growing, usually lion's mane is grown on sawdust and some sort of grain. So that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, there's a sterilization process that happens before spores are even introduced. But yeah, there's a lot of steps and a lot of details that we don't have time to go into tonight.
Thank you.
Nicole?
Hi, yes, thanks. I know you're ending the presentation and I learned a lot. Thank you so much. I just wanted to see if there were any events that y'all do near San Antonio. I'm in San Antonio.
Yeah, so we are hoping to do a few more events up in that area. We'll let you know whenever we see something in your area. We do some things with Sam the Fungi and also with South Texas Seasonals, Andrew Denny. And so he has a lot of classes that he does as well. And he's always out at the Pearl Farmers Market.
Great. Yep, I live near there. Okay.
And Talking Tree Farm. So yeah, definitely connect with those folks and see what they have going on, because they put on classes out there. And yeah, we did a few walks there last year, and we definitely want to do some more. But as I was saying and lamenting earlier, we're in a drought. So it's kind of a bummer. Y'all got to rain dance. Y'all got to rain dance, because this is we're gonna have lots of wildflower fires if we don't get more rain here.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, and if you tuned in late, you can always catch the recording on our YouTube channel. And did anybody else? See a few people that still have their hand up, but I think we've already gone. Is there somebody that still has a question that I didn't answer?
I did raise my hand again just to mention
something.
So I did actually grow lion's mane because another local here in San Antonio, Michael Buddy, he had his lion's mane. Yeah, he had lion's mane blocks, and I tried it out. I mean, the first thing I just want to say is don't be scared to mess up. Messing up means learning how to fix it.
True.
So I didn't have any problem with contamination, because he also told me that you could put a little bit of I forget that brown bottle that we use on cuts and stuff.
Oh, hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah, you put a little bit inside your spray bottle and it helps you maintain any contamination. The only problem I had with lion's mane was I think I didn't give it enough oxygen, that it grew really like branchy instead of toothy.
Mm-hmm.
So it just looked more like coral than it did like the nice like teeth that go down. So, but either way, it was still edible. It tasted great. It was amazing. So I just wanted to say that, like, don't be scared to mess up. There's kits everywhere. Get a kit, try it out, make your mistake.
Yes. Thank you for that. Always.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but Julia, I don't know if you can see the chat, because I know you're asking about lion's mane specifically. I sent you some links and I messaged you.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So I don't know if you can see that or not.
Thank you. I'll look.
And you found some mushroom farms in her area?
No, I'm terrible. I just sent her. I was saying, like, look for your local mushroom farms, look for your farmers market. Last resort, absolutely. not Amazon if you can help it, but there's some local grow people you can, not local, excuse me, but there's different people who sell grow blocks online. If you can't, find one of those that you like, technically you can find it on Amazon. I know not everyone's as technologically savvy. Sometimes Amazon is easier for some people.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight, and we appreciate you all joining us. And